Hi, and welcome to the show. After seeing pranks from one YouTuber who we saw on Classroom Confidential, I really could not be astonished before I started recording. Take a look at this picture. Can you ever imagine somebody, glass window, locking lips? Was it mom and dad? No, it was a student of some freaking students. This happened in Washington State. It says several parents are outraged after an icky stunt in Washington State Middle School. At a school park by students and teachers took part in a game where they licked whipped cream off a plastic screen. It gave the impression that the students were kissing. Even some students were weirded out by the event to kick off spring break. But now, it's causing a firestorm. Exactly. You don't remember what happened? Well, when we looked at Classroom Confidential, we looked at one video who did a prank on, who the administration pulled a prank on the students to where they were locking lips, not with the pretty cheerleaders or something, with mom and dad. So what was really going on? And does the school have an apology for doing this? Here's Jim Moore.
Who thought this was a good idea? That's what some parents are saying about an icky stunt at a middle school.
As I was watching it, I was like, what is actually happening in this video?
Students and teachers licking whipped cream off a plastic screen. It gives the impression that the students are kissing their teachers. You can hear students weirded out by the competition.
It looks so wrong!
The event in Kennewick, Washington was held to kick off spring break, but it's causing a firestorm.
It just felt unbelievable that there were so many adults in the room participating in this activity, and what really got me was the students and the teachers were participating in it at the same time.
Highly concerning, says the school superintendent. This activity does not reflect the high standards we hold for our staff.
The superintendent also says the incident is under investigation.
Common sense alert. We've been through this situation before. You were blindfolded, and you weren't kissing the pretty cheerleaders, but the kids were kissing the parents. How weird is that? Maybe someone should have stopped this and said, "This is too weird." But if I saw that happening, I would have freaking pulled the plug, got the microphone, and say, "Hey, that's enough." This may be a joke to you, but to me, it isn't. While the superintendent, he would have agreed with me and sat there right beside me. It's wrong and very unacceptable. If you're gonna make a joke out of this, don't do it. You're gonna get yourself in a bunch of trouble. Now the incident's under investigation, and I'm really glad. Several weeks ago, we focused in on a 4-day school week. That was several weeks ago. CCIC's not doing it. Keensville may be doing it. Now, Flower Bluff may be doing this. I think I might have showed you this before, but if I did, you're going to watch it again. So take a look.
Tonight with another school district in the Coastal Bend contemplating whether to make the move to a 4-day school week.
Yeah, over the last couple of months, more and more Texas schools are making the switch. Now the Flower Bluff ISD has added the topic to its school board agenda. Our Alexis Green has a report on what we know so far.
A 4-day workweek presentation is one of the agenda items on Flower Bluff ISD's upcoming school board meeting, but there isn't much more than that to go off of. The district, who denied to comment or provide a statement, says the discussion is in the preliminary stages. The school board also following suit.
All we're doing at this point is we're gathering information. That's really all. That's it.
Shirley Thornton, president of the school board, says she wants the Hornet community to know that regardless of the agenda items or discussions taking place, the calendar for the upcoming 23-24 school year has already been adopted and will not change. 3 News spoke with Hornet parents who are catching word of the 4-day work week buzzing around, who said they were surprised it would be considered.
Because I just feel like we have always been traditional down here, and I know a lot of other schools are doing more time off sporadically during the year, so maybe that would work out better so parents could plan, but they can't plan for, every Friday or every Monday, you know what I mean, with childcare and everything else, because, it's just been the norm for so long.
This 4-day work week item is on the May 23rd board meeting agenda. Lexus Green, 3 News.
All right, Lex.
And other schools are doing the same thing. Keensville, George West, ISD are offering those 4-day school weeks. Keensville's already doing this, and CCISD's not doing this. Thank God for that. But there ain't no common sense to do this. We're going to be several weeks into this meeting, but you know what I'm going to do? When we come back, I'm going to explain to you the pros and cons into this so that schools have a better understanding about how not to do this 4-day week. Because let's face it, we know about childcare, but what else is there? Then later, this man drugged these 3 women. And one of them was on videotape. John Quinones with lies and videotape. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Well, several weeks ago, we focused in on 4-day school weeks. Some schools are doing it, some schools are not. Others are offering this. Others are just simply doing this on the agenda. Flower Bluff is just one of those because the calendar for the 2023-2024 school year has already been adopted. We gotta look at this. We understand there was a teacher shortage and all, but we also understand what's going to happen with childcare. If you get parents may have the idea to plan ahead, sure. But what you also got are people who may just look at this and go, I may not have time to plan for childcare or whatever. That's why there's options called babysitting. Heck, if I would have a job babysitting, I would take 5 days off to do some babysitting. On my profile, I'll be like, I'm offering babysitting so and so, blah blah blah, because I'm really talented and all, blah blah blah. They would accept me, and how much will I pay? Okay, blah blah blah, so and so, this and this. That's probably part of the plan here. But for childcare, that's childcare. We've listened. That's the childcare issue. That's number one. Number two, what about the teenagers? Let's be reasonable about this. When truancy court was developed, it was a way to keep kids off the streets, meaning teens. So the kids didn't go to school, they're not just out there, not sitting at home watching TV, playing video games. No, they were out there stealing cars, joining gangs, breaking into houses, doing drugs, drinking alcohol. They're out doing a bunch of things. That's why truancy court was created, and juvenile judges were made to help combat the situation. So, if that were to happen, a lot of kids would join gangs, do drugs, drink alcohol, break into houses, break into stores, assault. We're raising juvenile delinquency. Now, we're not talking about truancy here. We're talking about the 4-day week. In my opinion, I'm against this. Like I said, I've got several reasons to be against this. Because people have often made mistakes. If you make a mistake, you at least gotta sit down, own up to it, and apologize for what you did. Because when you make a mistake, obviously, it may not come back to haunt you, but if you apologize and own up to it and fess it up and saying, hey, I'm sorry we did this. But that calendar follow is already put in place. And the month has, and it's not happening until May 23rd. So we'll keep you posted what's going on. Okay, did y'all hear what happened on Sunday? If you were at the Hooks game last night, you may have seen something happening. There was a crane that happened caught on fire, and it interrupted the Hooks game. Now there is new evidence that it happened. This was the new video. The woman hurt on the Harbor Bridge after that crane explosion. So let's take a look.
We begin tonight with new video of that crane fire and explosion from over the weekend at the new Harbor Bridge project.
Our Brian Burns also has an interview with an eyewitness sitting very close to the Corpus Christi Hooks fan who was hurt at Whataburger Field. He joins us now with the very latest on that. Brian?
Well, Leslie, Rudy, Saturday night's Hooks game was packed, a fun night with a jersey giveaway. But one man who witnessed the crane explosion nearby says that excitement turned scary.
I think it was probably like third inning, and I was in section 111, which was like right under the crane, kind of by third base. And pretty much like, I think it sounded like a jet engine. And it was just like a sound and then like a
Oh, Corpus Christi Hooks fan Andrew Niesel was watching the Hooks game Saturday night when he looked over his shoulder at the tall crane above the new Harbor Bridge project.
I turned around and I looked straight up at it, and then it kind of exploded out, like not a big fireball went up, and then you kind of saw like gas or like some kind of air release. And I was just, first thought was I grabbed the girl I was with, I said, we gotta go.
Many viewers shared their smartphone video, including this shot, showing men running on the crane near the fire. Bridge builder Flatiron Dragados says they're working with multiple agencies to determine what happened. Fire Department Battalion Chief Frank Solosky told 3 News what they know so far.
It happened with some kind of cable failure on the crane area and caused like the grease of the drum to catch on fire, and so there was a swamp fire on the very top up there that caused the cable to fail and perhaps send shrapnel into the adjacent facility.
That adjacent facility was a packed Whataburger Field.
I saw a lady pushing a stroller. She got hit by something and just collapsed, and she hadn't gotten up.
Andrew was in the same section as the woman who was hit. Other viewer video from the scene shows people rushing to help her.
We didn't have one report. I don't know the specifics of the injury. One person was transported.
Emergency crews tell us today they believe the woman will be okay. They did not describe her injuries, but said they are not life-threatening. The Corpus Christi Hooks temporarily evacuated fans from the section where the woman was hit, but that's all, and the game restarted a short time later. TxDOT tells me they are working with Flatiron Dragados to make sure that nothing like this happens again. Rudy, Leslie?
Okay. Common sense alert. I won't do it again. It won't happen again. It will never happen again. Do you know how often I hear that? A lot. I hear people all the time saying, I'm sorry. We're sorry this happened to you. We want to make sure it doesn't happen again. We won't do it again. It won't happen again. It'll never happen again. Find solutions and make sure this doesn't happen again. And don't keep saying that phrase over and over again. Common sense would tell you not to keep saying that phrase. Try to get it right. Okay, this man says he didn't do whatever happened to these 3 women who were drugged and raped. And it was on videotape. When we return, you'll meet that man and the 3 women who say they were raped by the man. And you'll see her videotape that was never seen before. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It seems like it's in the movies where someone would put the pill or the drug in the drink, the girl passes out, so and so. What we told you, it's not actually a movie. It's actually real life. In this next story you're about to see, you'll meet a guy who put the pills in the drinks. I went backwards, sorry. You're about to meet a man who put the pills in the drinks. And as the women drank their drinks, they all of a sudden got passed out. You will also see videotape that is horrific and horrible to watch. And I do have to warn you that the scene you're about to see from that videotape is quite graphic and clearly inappropriate for young viewers. So please ask your kids to leave the room. Very serious. You don't want your kids watching this stuff. And it's not going to be very fun. You will also see what happens when hidden camera footage shows about how easy it is to get that one drug smuggled from one state to another. Here's John Quinones.
For Nancy Coleman and Stephen Serra, life seemed picture perfect right from the beginning. Their wedding in 1989. What was he like?
Charming. He was very kind and giving and very thoughtful. And you just kind of got taken in by that.
But there were other women also taken in by the same thing. How would you describe Stephen?
Charming. Very charming.
Tammy met Stephen last year on one of his business trips to Arkansas, where he ran a lumber company. They started dating.
I asked him several times, "Are you sure you're divorced?" He said, "Yes, I am divorced."
She says she didn't know of Stephen's family life back in Texas, a life he made sure he captured on videotape. The loving wife, beautiful daughter, and another little one on the way. And Nancy, of course, didn't know about Tammy or about Stephen's double life, though increasingly there were problems. She caught Stephen in a myriad of lies, but not even her suspicions prepared her for the day she turned on her camcorder, expecting to see video of the birth of their new baby. She was in for a shock. How would you describe what you saw on the videotape?
Oh, just devastating.
There, before her eyes, was a series of taped encounters. Her husband having sex with 3 different women who Nancy says were lifeless, unconscious, while Stephen repeatedly violated them. The tape has now been placed under seal by an Arkansas court. But before that, Primetime was able to obtain a copy. Is this proof of a serial rapist at work? Well, the images we've seen on the tape are so graphic there's almost nothing we can broadcast. But on this part of the video that we've blurred, you can see Stephen moving one of the women around like a rag doll. What we can't show you is what happens next. Stephen engaging in repeated sexual acts. The women seemingly unaware of what's happening to them. They appear knocked out, as if they were drugged.
There's no question that this was her husband on the videotape. Stephen is seen all over it, making sure the camera is just right.
Oh, this has been really hard for me.
It kind of leaves you with a hole in your heart.
Jack Pate, Nancy's attorney, has also seen the tape.
These women, they have no movement. They are knocked out, and he is preying upon them like a wild animal.
It only convinced Nancy to go through with a divorce that she had already filed for. She took the tape and confronted Stephen.
He said, "If you don't give me that tape back, I'm going to go to jail. And you don't want me to go to jail, do you?" And I told him, "I don't really care what happens to you, Steve. Look what you've done to all of us."
In a desperate attempt to get the tape back, Nancy says Stephen took Chandler, their 4-year-old daughter.
At 9 o'clock at night, he went into her room and took her from her bed and walked out the door, and I couldn't stop him.
He was holding her like a hostage.
Yeah, I told him, "I'll give you the tape back. Just give me our daughter."
2 days later, she says, Stephen brought Chandler back, But by then, Nancy had already arranged to turn the tape over to police. With her daughters, she went into hiding.
I had just witnessed him raping 3 women. I didn't know what he would do to me.
Police identified 2 of the victims, a 19-year-old college student from Missouri and a 32-year-old woman from Texas. They suspected that the 3rd woman on the tape lived in Warren, Arkansas, where Stephen had his business. So they sent a copy of the tape to Sheriff John Kidwell.
It's as bad as anything I've ever seen. I don't want to see it again. I would describe it as the worst kind of perversion.
The sheriff was a 3rd victim, a woman from town who knew Stephen well, Tammy.
They had positively identified me as being the person on the tape.
You say this man was raping you on videotape, and you never knew it happened?
No. Had no clue. I was sleeping. I was snoring. Had he chosen to, he could have very well killed me very easily. And I would have known nothing about it. There would have been nothing I could do. And it's very scary.
Like Tammy, none of the other women even suspected that they'd been raped. Investigators believe that's because all of them were drugged by Stephen Serra. But police had no hard proof until they got a lucky break.
Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought he would do anything like that to me.
Jackie Haygood worked for Stephen at his lumber company. One night after work, she says, he fixed a couple of drinks.
Handed me mine like this and held it until I took the cup. He said, when I count to 3, drink it. And he counted to 3, we drank it, and immediately I felt something grainy as I swallowed it. I asked him what he put in my drink. He said, nothing. There's nothing. I didn't put anything in your drink.
You know something was in that drink?
I knew something was in it.
Within minutes, she says, she passed out. Police believe Stephen then took her to a local bed and breakfast where they were spotted by someone Stephen knew. It was only that chance encounter that may have prevented Jackie's rape. He took her back home.
I vaguely remember him helping me into the car, and that's all I remember until the next morning.
After Jackie woke up, she called her doctor and went in for a drug test. The results came back positive for flunitrazepam or Rohypnol, roofies. It's notoriously known for its illicit use as the date rape pill. Rohypnol is used as a sleeping medication in some countries, but in the U.S. it's illegal. It's incredibly powerful, 10 times stronger than Valium, and it causes short-term amnesia, memory loss. It's this same drug that authorities now believe Stephen may have given to all of his victims.
Smacks of necrophilia. And I would have a problem with someone that can enjoy that.
This is Stephen Serra, now charged with drugging and raping women in 3 states. We met him outside his jail cell in Warren, Arkansas. He agreed to talk to us with his lawyer at his side.
None of this would have happened if 2 things wouldn't have occurred. If I would not have filed for custody of my 2 daughters, and if Nancy had not found, the videotape.
What's seen on the tape, he says, is not criminal, it's consensual.
You call it consensual sex. The women call it rape.
Yes, I do, and I understand that.
Did you drug these women?
No.
You did not?
No, we did not. No, not at all.
If these women were not drugged, why are they knocked out on the tape?
Have you seen the tape?
I've seen the tape, and what we see on the tape is far from consensual. I mean, it is obscene and repulsive.
Well, I can't comment on that.
Mr. Serra, they're lifeless. And they don't remember a thing from the night before. In fact, they don't even remember being in the same building with you. They say.
They say.
And you don't believe them?
No. All of them woke up in bed with me. I find it ludicrous that all of them think that nothing happened.
He claims the women knew they were being videotaped and says the tape may have been edited to make it look more incriminating. By filing lawsuits against him, he says, 2 of the victims are simply trying to make money. As for drugging the women with Rohypnol,
No, I did not use Rohypnol. First time I had heard of that was when I was arrested.
But what about this? Evidence police say was found in Stephen's belongings. A mixed bag of drugs, including 38 tablets of Rohypnol and an empty container in his briefcase.
I don't think that's something that I'm aware of, that I've been shown.
And what about Jackie Haygood, who suspected she'd been drugged by Stephen and then tested positive for Rohypnol in her system?
Steve Serra says he never drugged you.
And Steve Serra was a liar. He knows he did it.
What prosecutors want to know now is just where did Steve Serra get his hands on such a powerful, illegal drug? Well, the answer may lie just across the Rio Grande, in Juarez, Mexico.
Primetime has obtained documents showing that in just 1 year, Stephen paid for at least 5 trips to El Paso. From here, we also know he crossed the border into Juarez. We decided to follow his trail, and we brought along a hidden camera.
We were looking for something called Rohypnol, you know.
As soon as we mentioned the drug, a cab driver knows exactly where to take us. In fact, he drove us to the same pharmacy where another cab driver told Primetime he took Stephen Serra on more than one occasion. It's legal Rohypnol in Mexico, but only with a prescription. We didn't have one.
Okay, Rohypnol. As much as you got. How much can I get? 5 bottles?
We easily bought 100 tablets, and that same cab driver told us Stephen bought at least 2 bottles of Rohypnol here. Most of the pharmacies we visited had a ready supply.
It's a bottle of 20, and it's, what was it, $25 for the bottle of 20.
And we can buy as many as we want? Okay.
Just be careful, going back.
Why?
You'll go to jail.
You go to jail?
Yes.
We are led into back rooms where the roofies are taken out of their packaging and put in plastic bags. This way it's easier to smuggle them into the U.S.
The reason they outlawed it so much is because the guys were giving it to the girls. See, the properties of this is you can't smell it, you can't taste it, and it won't change the color of the drink. So what happened is they were slipping in the girls' drinks. The girls would drink, and they rape them.
He then gives us some directions on how to take Rohypnol or use it on someone else. Listen carefully.
Now, if you just want it for plain sleeping, you can take just half of one or one, and you'll go to sleep real nice. Now, if you contemplate it, you want to count somebody out, you give them 4 or 5, and boom, they're gone.
4 or 5?
They're gone for good. Yeah, because you can move them around and everything, they're gone.
They're out, huh? Yes. Yeah. There he is, right there.
The next day we return with our cameras out in the open and some questions.
I'm an American reporter. My name is John Quinones. Primetime Live. I want you to turn the thing off. We want to talk to you. What the turn off? You sold me. Get out. You sold me this. I want to know why you sold it to me without a prescription.
He had nothing else to say. Only the salesman at this store agreed to talk to us.
You know how dangerous Rohypnol is?
Yeah, I know, but it's their choice.
Women have told us that they were put to sleep.
See, that's the thing, though. A lot of people, okay, that's the thing. Rohypnol is used for insomnia, and that's what it's for. Some people just just do it for the bad. But I mean, that's their problem. You know, I saw it for the sickness, which is insomnia. You know,
a lot of women would give you part of the blame for having sold it.
But they can't do anything to me. You know, I mean, because most of these cases are in the United States, right? Look where I'm at. I'm in Mexico. They can't do anything.
If you hadn't discovered this tape, no one would have known.
Yeah. No one would have known, and there would have been more victims.
How can you say that?
Because he didn't stop at 1. He didn't stop at 2. He got busted at 3. That's all.
Women in our story agreed to talk because they wanted other women to know that this can happen to anyone. Earlier this year in Arkansas, Stephen Serra was convicted of kidnapping, rape, sexual abuse, and drugging his victims. He's begun serving a 30-year sentence, but is appealing his conviction. And by the way, Hoffman LaRoche, the maker of Rohypnol, has begun putting a blue dye into the drug in 10 different countries in which it's sold, a dye that will make it easier to spot in drinks. Mexico, however, hasn't approved that change. Their Rohypnol is still colorless.
Such a case of videotapes and smuggling drugs. With summer coming up, are you planning on riding roller coasters at amusement theme parks? Keith Morrison with 2 investigations. And the reason why states are not permitted to report accidents. Stay with us. Here's a question for you guys out there. Are you planning on riding roller coasters this summer? Maybe you want to take some pictures while you're on the roller coaster or videotape yourselves your reaction. What if you expect the rides to be safe? That's exactly what happened in these cases you're about to see. Tonight, you will see some cases of rides that don't go reported. So that way when you go on a roller coaster, you expect it to be safe for you and your child. But is that always the case? Here's Keith Morrison.
This has become America's golden age of manufactured excitement. Never before have so many people drawn so many G's. So high, so fast, so often. For a great many people, the latest jangling attraction is the perfect combination of apparent risk, giddy thrill, and no danger at all. Or almost no danger. In fact, industry experts say you're more likely to win the lottery twice than be hurt on a roller coaster. But by the end of last summer, the summer of '99, the thrill had an extra edge of something like fear. In one terrible week last summer, 4 people were killed in amusement park accidents. Over the course of the summer, a total of 6 were killed in California, New York, New Jersey, Virginia, and Texas. There were accidents in big tourist parks and small traveling carnivals. And the government accounting revealed that during the previous 5 years, there had been a 24% increase in reported accidents and an 87% increase in emergency room visits. That's why, even though the odds of being hurt on an amusement park ride are very long, it is perhaps not surprising that some people have begun to ask if this is an industry in need of tighter regulation. Critics charge that the inspection rules at permanent parks and traveling carnivals are haphazard at best. Are people at greater risk than they need to be? You're about to meet a wild character who might help answer that question. Its name? Himalaya 8847. One of hundreds of rides just like it, to travel by train and truck to carnivals around the country. But this Himalaya, number 8847, is one George Lane will never forget. And here's why.
The carnival's always there. You know, I mean, we tried to go faithfully every year.
2 years ago in March, with spring break coming to an end, George's kids, high school sophomore Leslie Lane, her brother Tyler, and a friend, were anxious to make it to the Travis County Fairgrounds before dark to ride their favorite ride, the Himalaya.
They got on it and it started, and I had walked around the corner to get me something to drink. I walked back around and I started trying to find them.
He relives that moment again and again, of course, because what would happen next changed his whole life, changed everything.
I saw them come by one time, and the next time they came by, she had started to come out of the car. Never made it around again. She came out right after that.
Hit the wall.
Hit the wall.
It was a thudding noise coming from 8847. Witnesses said it sounded like a gunshot. All 3 were ejected from their seat. Tyler and the friend were battered, but not seriously injured. But Leslie took the brunt of it. As shown here in this animated recreation prepared by the Lane family's attorneys, 8847 centrifugal force threw the 3 children out of the car and into a retaining wall. Leslie landed on the metal walkway, blood streaming from her nose and mouth. At her side, the metal lap bar that was supposed to keep her safe.
The people all jumped off and ran, screaming.
It's just your worst nightmare.
Yes.
George tried to attend to Leslie and comfort Tyler. The ambulance came. George called Leslie's mother, who had stayed home that night.
I wasn't feeling well, and they'd been gone, I guess, about an hour, hour and a half, and I got the phone call to go to the hospital.
Leslie's mother was numb as she drove to the hospital.
That was the hardest thing I've ever done, was have to tell her that we didn't have Leslie anymore.
I mean, you never think your child's gonna die before you do.
Through the haze of pain and loss, George Lane searched for answers, and what he found was in equal parts shocking and confusing. While Leslie was riding 8847, government inspectors found that the lap bar holding her in had become detached from two critical points, as well as from an additional locking mechanism. And when the impounded Himalaya was tested days after the accident, pieces of the lap bars came flying off on 3 different occasions. Why wouldn't that have been noticed before the accident? Well, George discovered, it was. Just an hour before Leslie was killed, 3 riders had complained to the operator that the lap bar in another car they'd been riding in had broken off. When George went to find out how this could be, he discovered there are no national rules governing amusement parks, and that state laws are a confusing patchwork.
I was amazed. There's a lot of industries out there that would like to be in their shape and not have any kind of government regulations to follow.
By now, George was on a crusade. He learned that even though rides in Texas carnivals are not required to pass daily inspections, Himalaya 8847 had passed an inspection, had been deemed fit for operation the very day his daughter was killed. What was it, he wondered, about this ride? And then he discovered it had a pass.
In the case of this particular ride, this Himalaya ride, it had had problems before? Yes, that's what we found out in California. They had some problems there. One lady was injured there.
The very same ride that killed Leslie Lane was the last stop for a roller coaster with a history of safety problems dating back at least 7 years.
I remember making the comment, this ride's going to kill somebody someday.
Early in the evening of February 1st, 1991, Karen Boyles and her friend Amy Palomino went out looking for fun at the Imperial Valley Fairgrounds in El Centro, California. They climbed aboard Himalaya 8847. Amy took the outside seat for a bigger thrill, and the ride picked up speed.
It was like someone just picked her up and took her right out of the car. It wasn't even slow motion, it was just, she was gone.
Through a ride?
Mm-hmm.
Like a slingshot?
Mm-hmm. She was laying in a pool of blood around her head.
The lap bar had failed. Karen Boyles dislocated a knee, shoulder, and jaw, sprained a wrist and an elbow, and a blood clot on the front of her brain caused what she says is permanent night blindness. But her friend Amy Palomino suffered far more. Even after she recovered, her left arm remained paralyzed. She couldn't work. Could she have recovered? Perhaps. But friends and family blamed the accident for the depression and drinking that resulted in liver failure. So what happened?
Now she's an alcoholic, and she's dying.
Soon after we spoke to Karen, her friend Amy Palomino passed away. She was 30 years old. But what about Himalaya 8847? Just 2 days after the California incident, the ride cleared its next safety inspection and was back up and running at the California Midwinter Fair. Over the course of 7 years, it crisscrossed the state along the Western Carnival circuit without any serious injuries. But 8847 did pick up safety violations, many involving the lap bar. July 1991, Costa Mesa, California. May 1992, Costa Mesa again. February 93, El Centro, California. February 94, Indio, California. September 94, Tulare, California. August 97, San Mateo, California. October 97, Paris, California. The California Safety Board says some of the repairs were made, but problems kept cropping up, and eventually the state had enough of Himalaya 8847 when it was discovered that a critical power switch wasn't working. In February 1998, government officials physically went to a Del Mar, California carnival to shut the ride down for good. But when they arrived at the fairgrounds, the Himalaya was gone. Because laws on carnival rides differ from state to state, a stop order issued in California would not necessarily stop the owner, a company called B&B Amusements, from moving the ride to another state. And Less than a month later, Himalaya 8847 turned up here at the Travis County Livestock Fair and Rodeo in Austin, Texas. Within 10 days of its arrival, 15-year-old Leslie Lane would be dead.
People have been injured on it before. Why it was allowed to keep operating without going through some major overhaul. There's just not enough safety regulations in place.
Not enough? In some cases, there are none at all. In fact, rides in fixed amusement parks like Six Flags or Coney Island are one of the only consumer products in the United States not regulated by the Consumer Product Safety Commission or any other federal agency. The Commission can, and occasionally does, issue safety alerts, as it did after the accident on Himalaya 8847. And carnivals, like the one in Texas where Leslie Lane died, are governed by state laws that vary considerably from state to state. And in 8 states, there are absolutely no mandatory regulation or inspection programs whatsoever. But remember, statistics show that riding in amusement parks is very safe.
We have an extraordinary record of safety for handling that many people.
John Graff is the president and CEO of the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions, the trade group for permanent parks.
The chances of a fatality are about 1 in 450 million rides. The chance of being injured seriously enough to go to a hospital about 1 in 25 million.
But do numbers like that tell a complete story? Remember Amy Palomino from El Centro, California. The Consumer Product Safety Commission had no record of that accident, even though traveling carnivals are required by law to report accidents to the CPSC. And since there are no federal rules for reporting accidents in the big permanent parks, George Lane believes the number of people injured at parks and carnivals is much higher than commonly reported.
They can report what they want to, and they don't have to report what they don't want to.
You don't trust their numbers?
No, I don't.
There is no reporting requirement for a permanent park, fun center, or any type of fixed facility.
That's a problem.
Yes, it is. It's a big problem.
Ken Martin has been inspecting rides in amusement parks for decades, and though he believes they are safer than ever, he wonders why the government doesn't keep a closer eye on things. How is it possible that the Federal Consumer Product Safety Commission doesn't have any authority over these parks? They regulate toys for kids, and yet they won't regulate a giant ride?
Well, Keith, the consumers have not come forward and said, we want the parks regulated. You're right. We regulate car seats, baby cribs, all the important things in our life.
There's no federal standard.
None whatsoever on permanent parks and other fixed facilities.
George Lane believes that's a glaring problem, and he knew he had to do something to give meaning to his daughter's death and his own life. So he continued his mission, helping to create a new law in Texas which forces ride owners to report accident histories. Now he's demanding that the federal government make inspection public and mandatory, and get some kind of law to those states that now require no inspection or reporting of accidents. And now George has an ally in Massachusetts Congressman Ed Markey.
6.5 G-force is greater than an astronaut at NASA would be exposed to. That's how powerful these roller coasters have become.
And even if most of those rides are safe, says Markey, we need some national law to keep them that way. For one thing, he says,
there has to be a way in which states are notified that real dangerous rides are moving towards their states, that their children could be endangered.
This summer in America, millions of us will go higher and faster and pull more G's than we ever have before on amusement park rides. And we'll be much safer on those rides than we'll be in the car driving home. Almost all of us, that is. And George Lane will face another summer thinking about his daughter Leslie.
I mean, there's not a day that goes by that we don't talk about her, think about her. She's there. And will always be there.
Leslie Lane's death has resulted in criminal charges for the first time in the history of the amusement park industry. Arizona-based B&B Amusements, owner of the Himalaya, and the inspection company are planning to plead not guilty to charges of manslaughter. In a letter to Dateline, B&B declined our request for an interview, citing the pending trial, but noted this was the first customer fatality in B&B's 50-year history. The Lane family has settled a civil suit against the two companies.
But the story is not over yet. Coming up, there are more accidents, and one woman is on a mission here that Keith Morrison is back with safer parks. Stay with us. It's time for Driving Me Crazy. It's all about the hurricanes. Coming up in June, it's going to be hurricane season with her and people just freaking out and all. We're going to tell you some tips. In 2 videos, here's Katie Jeffries.
Nick?
Guys, it is the start of hurricane season. Yay! If I hear the words cone of concern, I think my eye will start twitching. The last 2 seasons have not been good to us. We had Matthew and then Irma. So whoever said Jacksonville never gets hurricanes, you are full of So I'm actually doing these videos from a different car because my last car got destroyed in Irma. R.I.P. Mabel in Malibu. It's fine. It's not like I'm still bitter about it or anything. So if you're gonna get ready, let's just do it now. Because the last thing I want to see is when people wait until the last second and then suddenly you can't find food or water anywhere. The poor guy at Publix, when he brings the water out from the back, it's like a scene from Braveheart of people just like storming the aisle trying to get to that water. Just do it now and you don't have to worry about it. Because when there's a storm coming, people are like, where are the eggs? Where's the milk? I need bread. What are you guys doing? Are you making French toast during hurricanes? Like, I don't get it. Just go get some canned goods, get some like Chef Boyardee or something, stock up on some water, and like you're fine. Just put that away in a closet and don't worry about it. And while we're on the subject of hurricanes here, evacuations are for your own safety. But if you mention evacuations, people at the beach are like,
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving!
Why? You're on your own. If you stay, you're on your own. And like, don't get me wrong, I love the beach. But then it's like the storm is upon us and everybody flees across the intercoastal to take refuge over with the townies. Just leave when they tell you to leave. And please be nice to the meteorologists. They are seriously doing the best that they can. It is science. They can't just predict the future. If you can predict a storm perfectly, 10 days out, you know exactly where it's going to hit and what time, you are a sorcerer, and I want you to come work for us. But seriously, the motto I like to live by is, unless Deegan is worried, I'm not worried. Because Tim Deegan has been tracking hurricanes since before most of us were even born. The man knows what he's talking about. If I see him get concerned, then I will get concerned. But until then, I'm not panicking. We're Floridians. We've seen this before. It's not like a freak blizzard or something. We have hurricanes that happen. We're a peninsula. We're just hanging out there in the ocean anyway. We can handle this. You know, the rest of the country pokes fun at us because, you know, we have gators that sometimes show up in our backyards and we have some kind of crazy news stories that happen here. But if there is one thing that we do know, we know hurricanes. We can do this. I believe in you.
And thankfully she does. Here is the second. Here's the second video.
Hey, we got a first timer down here. It is the beginning of hurricane season. I know a lot of people moved to Jacksonville in just the last few years. Stop clogging up our roads. So I know a fair amount of you watching this have never been through a hurricane. I've been through a bunch. I look like a wet rat in all of them. But if this is your rookie season, this one's for you. First of all, don't believe people who say, hurricanes never hit Jacksonville. First of all, false. People told me that all the time when I moved here, and Matthew, Irma, and my flooded car would like a word. So starters, make yourself a kit. You don't need to overthink this. Get yourself one of these. Something waterproof that seals. Put some food in it. My personal favorite, Chef Boyardee. You can judge me all you want, but after eating eating granola bars for days, there's no power, and you are hungry as hell, this tastes like a 4-star Michelin meal. Stock up on snacks, because when the power goes out, you have nothing to do but sit around and eat. Go get yourself some jugs of water, because right before a storm, people storm the aisles like Braveheart, fighting over pallets of water. Oh, and you might want to stock up on a few adult beverages. I'm not saying you need to drink to get through a hurricane. I'm also not saying that. Next, make copies of all your important papers and your insurance papers. Then take your phone, go around and film your house like you're on MTV Cribs. Trust me, you are going to want this video when you have to fight with your insurance company. If you hear nothing else from this video, I need you to know these 3 things. Where you live on a map, the county in which you live, your evacuation zone. None of these 3 things should be hard, but you would not believe the calls that we get into our newsroom if there is a storm approaching. Carol calls because she wants to know if it's going to rain at her house and should she evacuate. Well, first of all, Carol, yes. If it's a hurricane, it's going to rain at your house. It's going to rain everywhere. Should you evacuate? I can't answer that for you. Does it normally flood at your house when you get a heavy rain? Is there a medical reason like an oxygen tank that you're going to need power? Do you live in an evacuation zone? I can't answer the phone calls anymore that come into the newsroom because I feel like freaking Jerry Maguire.
Help me help you.
Seriously, know these 3 things and it will make your life a lot easier. Quick edit, I realized I forgot a couple things. Importantly, if you have a pet, you need to make a plan for them too. If your plan for your pet is to just leave them behind and wish them the best of luck, you need to start finding a new home for your pet because you don't deserve them. And yes, I know that wild animals have survival instincts, but do you think Fifi here has ever had to struggle for a day in her life? No. She doesn't know how to survive a hurricane any better than you do. So take them with you. It's a non-negotiable. And if you're going to ride it out, make sure you plan on having food and water for your pet as well. Also, don't tape your windows. I don't know who started this nonsense, but this doesn't do anything. If you are actually worried about your windows, board them up. Cool? Alright, back to your original video. I could go on for days, but this should get you started. To summarize, hurricane season is as Florida as a python eating a gator. It's just a fact of life down here. It's something we live with. If something serious kicks up, I promise we will be here with you to get you through it. But until then, you don't need to panic. Think of this as your rookie season. And for the love of all things Florida, know your zone.
Well, I don't even say it, but I think Katie Jeffries just threw out some common sense alert. But, think about this. If you remember Bane Jam's playing PlayStation Challenge, a freaking hurricane happened, and this guy was playing PlayStation in the middle of a freaking hurricane. It's like, go on without me. I gotta go make a video for Bane Jam. Okay, you get your system in, you plug it in, and then you boot up your video game system. Go on without me. Really? The government orders you to evacuate. Evacuation is a strong word. Don't get me wrong. I love the beach, but I certainly don't want to be evacuated to the beach where water will come at me. Evacuate to another state. When Hurricane Harvey hit back in 2017, everybody moved to San Antonio where the hurricane didn't hit. That's the common sense perspective. Evacuation is for your own good. You need to know these 3 things. The county in which you live, where you live on a map, the county in which you live in, and your evacuation zone. You need to know those 3 things. And like Katie said, get your insurance papers ready so that way you know how much you're paying for. Don't tape your windows, board them up. As a matter of fact, your mama's so dumb she thought that tape would help the windows not break during a hurricane. You think that was a joke, right? Yeah, right, it was. And also, your mom was so fat that National Weather Service gives a name to each one of her farts as a hurricane. But all seriousness, no, though, you need to know evacuations for your own good. Pets, don't leave your pet behind because there ain't no room. Take them with you. Stock up on food. Get canned goods. That shit will last you forever. forever. Ever. It will last you forever. Chef Boyardee's. Don't get me, you can judge me all you want, but I'm with Katie on here. You eat some Chef Boyardee's, and that's a 5-star meal right there. Just trying to understand. Hurricanes and evacuations are for your own good. There's your common sense perspective on this. One woman is trying her best to make sure that every state has laws that would report accidents state by state. We'll have her story next. Stay with us. Well, we're now out of time, but we're going to continue this on Wednesday. You're going to meet one woman who saw accidents happen and she wanted to do something about this. Here's a preview.
A young boy trapped beneath an amusement park ride, left severely brain damaged. Another child, his foot trapped in a track.
The visitors started yelling, "His foot's out, stop the ride, stop the ride."
An amusement park injury can happen in a split second. We want rides to be scary, but how do we know they're safe?
Did they report the accident?
There's no one to report accidents to.
Keith Morrison asks, who makes sure you're safe at the amusement park?
And who makes sure? We're going to have that story for you on Wednesday. That's Give Me a Break for this Monday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday. Everyone here at YouTube, have a good night.